Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our show, Relationship Realities. Today we are discussing a question many people think about. Do long-distance relationships usually fail? It is a topic that brings strong feelings and different experiences. We have two guests with us today to share their views. First, we have Sarah, who believes that long-distance relationships can definitely work if couples try hard. Welcome to the show, Sarah. And we also have Ben, who thinks that these relationships often don't succeed because of the many problems. Welcome, Ben. Our discussion today will be in 3 parts. First, Sarah and Ben will give their main ideas about the topic. After that, we will discuss some of the important points together, and I will ask them some questions. Finally, Sarah and Ben will give their short closing thoughts on the matter. We hope this discussion will be interesting and helpful for our listeners.
Good morning, Alex, and thank you for having me. Good morning, Ben. I am happy to be here to talk about this important subject. I believe that long-distance relationships can be successful, and they are not always destined to fail. It is true that they need more effort than relationships where people live close to each other, but success is very possible. One of the most important things for any relationship is communication, and this is especially true for long-distance ones. Luckily today, technology helps us a lot with this. We have video calls, instant messaging, and social media. These tools allow couples to see each other, hear each other's voices, and share daily moments, even when they are many miles apart. This regular contact helps couples feel close and connected. Another important point is trust. When you are in a long-distance relationship, you learn to trust your partner more deeply. You cannot always see what the other person is doing, so you must rely on honesty and commitment. This kind of trust, once it is built, makes the relationship very strong and resilient. Finally, long-distance relationships can give each person space to grow individually. Couples can focus on their studies, careers, or personal interests while still being part of a loving partnership. They can build their own lives, but also make exciting plans for a shared future together. So yes, it needs dedication and understanding from both sides, but with these things, long-distance relationships can definitely work out and be very rewarding.
Good morning, Alex and Sarah. Thank you for the opportunity to share my views. While I understand Sarah's points, in my opinion, long-distance relationships often fail, unfortunately. The reality is that they present many difficult challenges that most couples find too hard to overcome. The biggest problem, I think, is the lack of physical presence. It's very hard when you cannot see your partner regularly, hug them, or just be in the same room together. Simple things like sharing a meal or watching a movie together become complicated or impossible. This physical distance can make people feel very lonely and disconnected, even if they talk often. Sarah mentioned communication, but I think this is also a big difficulty. Yes, we have technology, but text messages or emails can easily lead to misunderstandings. You cannot see the other person's face or hear the tone of their voice clearly all the time, which is important for understanding. Also, time differences can make it very hard to find good times to talk, especially if people have busy schedules with work or study. Another serious issue is that people change, and when you live separate lives, it's easy to grow apart. You might develop new interests or new friends that your partner doesn't know. Over time, you might find you have less in common, or one person might feel like the relationship is stopping them from moving forward. It is also easy to feel lonely, and sometimes this loneliness can lead to one partner finding someone new who is closer. So while I admire the effort some couples put in, the challenges are often too big, and many long-distance relationships, unfortunately, do not survive.
Thank you, Sarah and Ben, for your opening statements. You have both given us a lot to think about. Sarah, Ben mentioned the lack of physical closeness as a major problem. How do couples in long-distance relationships usually manage that absence of day-to-day physical connection?
That's a very fair point, Ben. The physical distance is certainly a challenge, but it's not impossible to manage. Many couples focus on the quality of the time they do spend together. rather than the quantity. They plan exciting visits and make sure that when they are together, they create wonderful, lasting memories. These planned visits become something to look forward to, which can be very motivating. Also, small gestures can help bridge the physical gap. Sending gifts, letters, or even surprise food deliveries can make a partner feel loved and remembered, even from far away.
Ben, Sarah talked about technology making communication easier and helping couples feel close. You mentioned misunderstandings. What are your thoughts on technology's role after hearing Sarah?
Yes, technology is there, but it isn't a perfect solution, as I said earlier. Video calls are good, but they are not the same as being with someone in person. You miss the small, everyday things. A quick smile, a shared look, a comforting touch. Also, relying too much on technology can be tiring. Sometimes you don't want to have a scheduled call. You just want your partner to be there. And as I mentioned, time zones can be very hard. If one person is starting their day and the other is ending it, finding quality time to connect meaningfully can be a constant struggle. This can lead to frustration and make communication feel like a task rather than a joy.
That's an interesting point, Ben. Sarah, another common concern in long-distance relationships is jealousy, or issues with trust. Can that become a bigger problem when partners are apart?
Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship, and it's perhaps even more critical in an LDR. Honesty and open communication are absolutely essential. Both partners need to be clear about their feelings, their worries, and their expectations. It's true that distance can sometimes create insecurity or jealousy, especially if one person is very social, or if there have been trust issues in the past. However, overcoming these challenges together can actually strengthen trust. When you choose to trust your partner despite the distance, and they show they are trustworthy, the bond becomes deeper. Regular reassurance and making an effort to include your partner in your life, even from afar, can also help a lot to prevent jealousy.
Ben, we do hear stories about long-distance couples who make it work and are very happy. In your view, why do you think some of these relationships do succeed, despite the difficulties you've highlighted?
I think there are a few reasons why some might succeed, but I still believe it's not the common situation. Perhaps these couples are very lucky. Maybe they have personalities that are very well suited to handling distance and independence. Sometimes, couples who succeed might have more money, which makes it easier to visit each other more often. Frequent visits can certainly reduce some of the strain. Also, if there's a clear end date to the long-distance part of the relationship, for example, if someone is studying abroad for just 1 year, it can be easier to manage because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But for many, the distance is indefinite, or the financial means for regular travel aren't there. These are the situations where I believe failure is more likely.
So, a clear timeline and financial resources can make a difference. That's a practical point.
To summarize my thoughts, I still strongly believe that long-distance relationships can achieve success. As I said earlier, good and consistent communication, especially using the technology we have today, is very important. Building strong trust through honesty and effort and making clear plans for a future together are also key elements. These relationships certainly demand a lot of work, commitment, and patience from both people involved. There will be difficult days and moments of doubt. That is normal for any relationship, near or far. But if both partners are truly dedicated to making it work and value their connection, they definitely can succeed and build a very strong bond. So my final thought is this: don't give up on a potentially wonderful relationship just because of the distance. It can be worth the effort.
In closing, I want to remind our listeners of the very real difficulties that long-distance relationships present. Remember, the lack of physical closeness, the potential problems with communication, even with technology, and the significant risk of growing apart are not small issues. These are serious difficulties that can put a huge strain on any couple, no matter how much they care for each other initially. While some couples, as Sarah mentioned, do manage to make it work, and I wish them well, The reality for many is that these challenges are often too much to handle. As a result, many of these relationships unfortunately end, causing sadness and disappointment. So my final thought is that it's very important to be realistic about how hard a long-distance relationship truly is before starting one or while trying to maintain one.
Thank you very much, Sarah and Ben, for sharing your different views and experiences with us today. We heard good arguments for why long-distance relationships can work, especially with commitment and good communication. And we also heard about the significant problems they often face, such as distance and changes in life. It's clear there's no single answer for everyone. Thank you all for listening to Relationship Realities.